Look, we gotta get going.
No.
Are you?
I need to see some ID.
Are you a cop?
Yeah, I am.
What's your badge
You're
number?
on private property. Stop.
Okay. What's your reasonable suspicion?
Sure. I need to see what's inside the case. Okay.
Okay.
I'm a campus authority.
Okay.
I need to see some ID to make sure you have business here.
Okay.
Okay. The fact that you're not.
Did you observe us steal anything?
I'm not, but I'm questioning you. I need to see your ID. You're on private property. I'm asking you to stop. You're refusing to stop, but now you're complying.
Okay.
Now I need to see some ID. I want to make sure that you're not taking anything from the library. That's my reasonable suspicion. Do you understand?
Okay.
Okay.
Now,
This is where we're at right here.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Now, a reasonable person would have to articulate in court through a warrant the reason why someone needs to see behind this.
Because
now, you
you're
can,
actually in
It's
private
actually the
property.
same thing as a backpack, technically.
now, here's a
It
couple
is,
things.
and you
Here's-
actually relinquish your rights when you're on private property. I can't ascertain if this is actually yours or if this is the library's property.
you could go ask them right now what the bins look like.
And we can, but I was in the process of you doing that, but you guys ended up walking out as soon as I tried to contact
So you can't go contact them anymore. To
No,
find out if
because
these bins are
you need to
yours.
come with me. Otherwise, as soon as I go inside, I have a feeling you're going to take your stuff and you're going to leave.
So am I being detained right now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so you're detaining me without the information that you just admitted is not right there.
And
you
you're-
said that
and
you
you
could
are
go out
actually-
there and
you're
get
right
them
now
right
in
now.
the process, you're trying to argue with me instead of actually trying to give me some ID, which I'm asking you in the first place to do.
I'm trying to exercise my right to not be searched without a warrant.
Okay,
Illegally
you can't
search
do
and
that on
seize.
private property.
Okay, so
Okay.
now
Now I can
Public
end up
library.
calling.
the public library.
It's a public library on private property.
Okay,
Okay.
so the private
Is this not
property,
open to the public?
the
It
private
is
property.
until a certain time at night, until 12 o'clock.
Okay,
And you're
so
on private property.
now
So
this has happened before.
What I'm trying to ascertain is this is your guys' stuff. But first and foremost, since I can't identify you two, I need IDs from you right now.
Okay,
So,
so
let's
if
go
we
with
were to
let's
be-
go with that first, okay?
Okay.
That's reasonable. When you're on private property, you have to identify yourself first and foremost. Okay? If you don't want to do that, I'm going to contact Denver police.
Okay,
Okay?
may I have one
That's
question?
where we're at right now.
I
Go
will
ahead.
slip one question in. On private property, in order for people to be doing something wrong, usually like say, not wrong, but in private property that's open to the public, we have the understanding that when somebody has a policy that is different from a public statute, it doesn't really matter what it is, it's like skateboarding for a mall, that someone has to receive a formal warning in order for them to not be able to do that again. And so here, students or not, people are allowed to publicly use this for pretty much any reason. And, well, I mean, that's the point, is it's open to the public, and we need a formal warning in order for people to tell us that we shouldn't be doing this.
And we're giving you that warning right now.
So you're the business owner of the private property that's telling me
We are
that
the
I'm
campus
being...
officials that oversee this entire campus.
Okay, are you
If
telling us
can't
that we're
give me your
trespassing?
ID, first and foremost, you are going to be trespassed right now if you don't give me your
Okay.
ID. That's where we're at right now.
Okay,
And if you refuse to give me your ID, I'm going to call out Denver police. That's where we're at right now. So how do you want
Okay.
this to play out? Do you want to give me your ID so we can proceed forward, or do you want me to call out the
They
police?
will. Is it
Okay.
illegal to be that in here from 12 to 2, not a student?
They allow you to be sometimes, and that's fine. That's fine by us. It's not illegal to be here.
They've never warned us over that.
No, it's not illegal to be in this library from 12 to 2 a.m. But right now, I will need to see your identification, period. Now, are you guys going to comply, or do I need to call out police?
I could do it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Go ahead and reach for your ID.
I don't have an ID on me.
You don't have an ID.
It was
on you.
relinquished by an officer because I didn't pay an old license plate out ticket, and I just need to pay that in order to get the license back. So he relinquished the license. So I
Okay.
need to go get an ID someday, so I can tell you my name and information.
Okay. Gerard, can you write down his information?
Yes, reasonable suspicion enough
Reasonable
to
suspicion,
articulate theft.
or trespassing, or I mean, could you guys explain to us the charge?
So
Sorry,
here's
I'll get my name first.
Here's where we're at, okay?
Okay.
Okay. I see you guys walking up outside, okay, carrying out totes. I don't know if this stuff belongs to you or not. You're carrying out a screen, a Samsung screen, which is not usual to be carrying in the library to begin with, right? Period.
Yeah.
That seems suspicious to me. That's why I'm contacting you. And we're entirely able to contact you under any reasonable suspicion because you're on private property. We are the campus officials. And if you refuse to ID yourself, we're going to call out the police. We'll run a background check, see if you have any warrants out for your arrest, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay?
Boy, that still doesn't make sense, but whatever. I'll give you my name.
Okay.
William Montgomery.
You can tell me, I'll write it down.
William Kent Montgomery.
William, common spelling?
Yep.
I-A-M?
Yep. L-L-I-M. William Kent Montgomery.
Can you spell Montgomery?
M-O-N-T-G-O-M-E-R-Y.
I've seen you guys in here.
Birthday July 7th, 1985.
You said July what?
Okay.
July 7th, 1985.
Gotcha. Do you want to go inside with, and just confirm that with the library staff?
We're just going to run your name, like you said, just make sure everything's okay. Nothing.
Okay,
nothing
so
serious.
now the question here is, once you get our information
Sure.
and or answers about us, if
Right.
we have rights to remain silent too,
Right.
what are you doing in order to confirm or dispel something of a suspicion of...
He's going to go inside and confirm with the library staff because apparently you've been contacted before, possibly. Have you been in contact with us before?
We've never been in contact.
Okay.
Hey, we refuse to answer any more questions without lawyers present.
That's okay. So basically, what my other officer ended up confirming with me is that the library staff ended up calling out that you were suspicious in a previous call. They came out, they dealt with you guys. I guess they confirmed you had this equipment and you guys were okay last time. So I'm just going to reconfirm that again. The fact that you're giving me your IDs, and we're going to go from there and make sure we haven't had any previous suspicious contacts with you guys, and that you're clear in Denver County Court. I'm just going to let you go. So,
Okay,
but
so-
to begin with, the
Okay.
problem I had with you guys was walking out the door,
Okay.
and you guys didn't want to obey my commands to stop.
Okay.
That's where it got really suspicious for me.
Now,
Okay?
now
That's why I
obeying
contacted
command
you.
by itself.
Wait, I'm still
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
still
I'm
talking,
sorry.
okay?
I'm sorry.
So that's where we're at right now, okay? The fact that you guys are carrying out stuff, now look at it from my perspective. I don't know who you two are. It's usually kids in here late at night, but it's open to the public. I understand that. I'm coming up the stairs, I see you guys taking stuff out that kids don't normally take out, period.
Normally,
Right.
keyword.
Yeah,
This is being an exception to the rule, right? You're carrying out stuff that's packaged
I mean,
inside.
there's projects.
You're
It
also,
looks
hold
legal.
on,
Yeah, no,
hold
let's
on,
let
I'm
him
still
talk.
talking.
Yeah, sorry.
A Samsung screen, that's pretty suspicious, okay? That's why I said I need to see you guys' ID, period. We're campus
Question.
officials.
Is this model used anywhere in this place?
I don't know.
Because if you worked here a lot, you would notice that this is clearly not.
I'm
the
all over the
model.
place, and this isn't my area of expertise. But the
Okay.
fact that I've
Okay.
seen other kids end up taking out models of TVs before, that's reasonable enough suspicion
I'm
for me
not
to
disagreeing
contact
with
you.
general.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Oh,
Well,
we're
let's
agreeing with everything you say. All we're doing is making sure that our rights are exercised properly.
I got
during
you,
the
and that's
situation.
perfectly fine.
So,
okay?
yeah, okay. So I got lots of questions. If that's cool.
That's fine.
Thanks. Okay, so 2, are we still being detained?
Right now you are until we're running your names. Are they come back with anything? Are they still in the process?
Okay.
Okay, hold on. We're still in that process, making sure you don't have any Denver County warrants. Do you guys have any?
No.
Okay,
Okay, so
okay. So you guys are clear, okay? The reason why I contacted you was, again, when I saw you guys come up, you're carrying out equipment, I asked for you to stop, you didn't, you started hurrying out the main doors, which really set off my red alert alarm, okay? Do you understand that? Does that make sense to you?
oh, okay. So what would be the crime of reasonable suspicion that we would fit? Theft?
It wasn't really like we were running. We were just continuing our normal path that we would normally be taking.
And you chose not to answer any questions, and you still were in the process. Instead of saying, hey, officer, okay, I'll stop and answer any questions.
Okay.
Okay? That's what you should have done.
So now, okay, so in our experience, we're born in this country, so we feel as though there are 3 different levels of encounters. First level being consensual. You can say, walk up to anybody on the street, you're just, hey, how's it going? What can I get out of you? Second one would be something like a reasonable suspicion, where you can physically detain them now to confirm or dispel your suspicions, maybe run a name. Third level encounter is probable cause for an arrest, to either custodial arrest them, maybe non-custodial, write them a ticket if they qualify.
Right.
So what we're confused about here is we did not know that you had graduated your encounter from a level 1 to a level 2. When we're leaving, we're allowed to ignore cops. You didn't tell us
Detained at that moment.
that we were seized. You didn't tell us well, you said stop, but there is a law out there, a legal authority that says if you're not seized, you start over. In order to constitute a seizure, there's a show of authority, it's just my understanding, and there's a consent to the authority that completes the seizure, or if there's no consent to the authority, it has to be a physical seizure. So if we were to keep walking or something like that, there's no seizure that takes place. And this is a case law out there. The reason why this has happened in the cases out there is because somebody, threw a rock before they were seized after the cops were chasing them. Cops said, "Stop, you're under arrest." They kept walking. They threw a rock. The rock was actually admitted as evidence because it was thrown before he was even seized physically, because he didn't concede authority consent.
Difference from saying stop from someone walking down the street versus cornering them with lights and showing all authority responsible.
Right, and that didn't happen in this situation.
Yeah, so we didn't know where the graduating level encounter met, and so I guess we'll just have to go over our audio. But if you say that you stopped us because we disobeyed a command to stop, that's what we're saying is that's not going to give you reasonable suspicion for, what would that be charged, like disobeying an officer? Is that like is that a charge or anything? We've actually been wondering about this.
Right, you're on private property. You're not on a city sidewalk right now, where you can
Okay.
end up basically just leaving.
So it'd be like
So you basically relinquish your rights, most of your rights on private property, and we're the acting campus officials here, okay? So when you're on private property and a campus official ends up saying stop, you're gonna have to stop by law. Because
okay.
you're no longer on any city sidewalk. Now, if I was on a city sidewalk trying to contact you and I said stop, can't do it, I don't have any jurisdiction. But since we have jurisdiction here,
What is your official title?
campus safety officers, so we're basically security of all campus.
Are you,
Safety officer, so it's like,
do you have,
CSU police, like in Fort Collins?
Basically, yes, basically in the same capacity.
so
We're
you have
non-sworn officers, basically. Okay?
so you're
so you have-
non-sworn
you have a badge.
officers?
Right, but we're still able to make stops and custodial arrests based on being on private property. We have that power to do so.
Okay, so you're not an officer of the actual sworn-in Denver County or city
Correct.
police.
Badge number.
Correct.
No badge
So,
number or anything.
We do have.
Wow,
badges.
we thought you were a cop earlier. Okay, so now we're in a different zone.
So you thought
if
I was an
a-
actual police officer and you still chose to just ignore the commands and leave?
Well,
Because of the
it
whole
doesn't matter what
custodial arrest,
people. I mean, when they
shows
tell me to
authority.
stop, I don't have to stop until I, am physically seized, or in this case, I consented to the authority eventually.
And I'm telling you
So-
right now, so if you want to come back to the library, you're going to have to obey all commands in regards to being stopped or asked, to comply in any way, shape, or form by any university official. And that's not just me. That's anybody, that's basically any professor, any administration person, or campus safety officer, including myself or my other officers, okay? So if you want to come back and utilize the library for its purposes, which you're free to do so, you still have to obey the laws and regulations of the school property and being on private property, okay? So that means any type of campus official, if they want to stop you, you're going to have to stop and obey. Now,
I guess the contention that we're at is the whole stop and obey thing, is that we've been accused before, and we've won.
here specifically?
No, just in general.
Okay, now is that where your suspicion and why we're having this,
Well,
why we're
no,
having
let's,
this conversation to begin with?
Let's put it this way.
Walmart.
Let's change directions altogether. Okay, so a merchant, like a mall company, has a security guard, right?
Sure.
And their rights as a citizen, not as an officer, according to what we've researched, is only one thing, and it's going to be along the lines of probable cause. Basically, it's a citizen's arrest.
It
and,
is, yeah.
And it's not a detainment for reasonable suspicion. It's an actual arrest because you plan on following through with the actual arrest. And basically, since you're not a cop, or the security guard's not a cop, if you lose in court, you don't retain any probable cause. But it's otherwise, there's only one time and one place to seize somebody, and that's basically probable cause. And probable cause can be something that not a cop does, but reasonable suspicion is not something that people can do if they're not cops. So it's either charge or not. And so when you talk about seizing us with reasonable suspicion here, that's not a place where cops do things, or the non-cops who do things.
Right, but since you're on private property, it's a different story.
And
Well,
that's
you're
where
not
we
an
come to our
officer.
argument where we have this problem with Walmart trying to stop us with receipts. When they're stopping us, some of them are getting to the point of actually trying to corner us,
Gotcha.
detain us, and not showing a receipt is not any indicative of shoplifting. You actually have to get security footage enough to build an actual case that you can bring to a police officer and file in a courtroom. And the whole contention is we walk around those employees because we know the false imprisonment statute that would ensue. And basically, that's kind of where it's coming here, by accusing if we were stealing it or not.
They're instructed to not stop
So,
people because they
you observe
can't
us walking?
unless they actually have
Actually-
probable cause for a citizen's arrest to go ahead and hold them to charge them for
Isn't
an
somebody,
actual crime of, in that case, shoplifting. You can't stop somebody unless you actually
If it
are
was
going to go
actually
follow
your
through
TV,
with it.
slam dunk, obviously.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But the fact that you didn't want to comply with instructions on private property, that's where you guys would end up losing.
Okay, so now we're going back to this other argument. So a mall owner or security guard
Right.
that tells me to stop is the exact same thing as a mall owner or a shopkeeper telling me to stop. They don't have any legal authority to tell me to stop in the first place. If they wanted to seize me, they could do so physically.
They
But
could.
it's nothing that is, okay, what would we be charged with if we kept
Call
walking?
it an ugly thing, we would be trespassed, and we would have to fight the trespass the ugly way because we would have to trespass.
Yeah, you would tell us that you're not welcome back here.
Right, basically, yeah, you'd be trespassed, period. Yeah.
And so
I
we'd
mean,
have
unless I knew specifically, you know, that you were stealing something for sure, we would end up acting on that custodial arrest, a citizen's arrest, okay?
So,
But in the worst, but in the less case scenario would be a verbal trespass, and if I saw you guys again, then I'd hook you up and then end up booking you for.
obviously that'd be
for
a
trespass.
actual trespassing charge.
Yep, absolutely. So that's where we're at. Is that clear up here? Any confusion, gentlemen?
no.
well, sure, yeah, no, that's no issue there.
Okay. You have
I
any
guess,
more questions? Or you good?
well, we're not being seized right
No,
now.
no, you guys are free.
When did we,
you guys are
we
free
when
to
did we
leave
stop
it.
being
So, like,
seized?
the
I don't
last 10
know.
minutes.
Well, I asked
Well,
them to
you
get
said
back.
you
the
basically
ID.
sidestepped and you wanted to ask questions. That's you've been free to leave now for quite some time.
They gave
but
back
you wanted
the
to ask
ID,
questions.
that was the end of the seizure.
Okay. Can we get Denver police here right now?
Okay, for what?
We feel as though that we were just unlawfully seized with not probable cause. It's false imprisonment. You guys don't have reasonable suspicion as non-officers of the law, and I think we need to get some real people here.
Okay, you want to talk to Denver Police?
I do.
Okay.
Oh, I think we need to get some statements out.
Charlie, too. Go ahead and send us code 9 out here.
Do you want me to call over details so we don't like?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So can a Walmart receipt requester demand an ID? And then,
Walmart specifically, I don't know what their policy is.
I mean, a security guard from Walmart. Can they, if they see you walking out and you didn't answer the question about the receipt, can they stop you and say we need an ID now because we're suspecting that you're shoplifting? I guess which would be the.
I'm
if
not
it's
sure.
not showing a receipt.
I'm not sure what their law, what the regulations are. I couldn't answer that.
Laws and whatnot, and they want to do
It's
that.
just a hypothetical. The answer is technically no,
No.
because
Too serious. So when you call them, you don't have to be like, this is, you know,
only a police officer has the right to check an ID. That would be going
they just requested police.
legal search or seizure.
On private property, yeah, you're required to actually identify yourself.
The requirement is only if we want to be trespassed. If we kept walking,
No,
Not
because
even
then
not
the
trespassing.
owner
They
could
actually,
then
if
know
a
what-
skateboarder goes along
At this
and you say
point,
you're
if
banned, you don't have to ID a skateboarder
any-
to ban him.
If you don't have any
Technically, you
business
don't
on
need the
campus,
ID.
you'd be trespassed if you didn't show any ID.
Well,
but the
remember it's
business would
public,
be,
private.
No prior formal warnings of anything. We have nothing on file.
It would
for
be a
Denver.
verbal trespass, so you wouldn't be arrested at that point. Does that
So
make
how
sense?
would you?
So at this point, if I ended up trespassing you, that's just a verbal trespass. We would get information from you, your name, your first and last name, your address, your details. We take a photo ID of you in case you came back. Then you would be trespassed. You'd be sent to jail. We call out Denver Police at that point. That's how our trespass works here.
I think we.
So you're warned, and then if you disobey the warning and you come back, that's when you get
So,
charged.
so during a picture said taking a picture, right? Am I seized during that time?
Yeah, you are.
Detained.
Yep. You are detained at that point.
See, the whole point is the mall security guards, when it comes to things that are not state or federal statutes, such as assault, stealing drugs, or anything that anyone can technically citizen dress, we use the argument of like a red shirt or skateboard incident on a mall. And a mall security or owner does not have the right to hold a person on their property for identification or to hold them until the police officer gets there. Most that they can do is take any evidence that they can, take a picture of them, and just hand it over to the police.
It's a different story on private property, guys.
Okay, so is this private property private only, or is it open
Private.
to the public?
It's private property. So this
I
building
guess
is open to the public.
public clause is where
It's open to the public. This building is, but it's also private property.
Okay, so King Supers is open to the public, but that's fully
Unclear on
private. Is there any difference between this and King Supers?
I don't know.
Because it seems like it's the same
I guess
thing.
where we get at is these laws overlap in public forums. So sports arenas or market complexes, they try to ban like flyers, people, but they basically lost because it was deemed a public sphere and not entirely private, because it's not, the public makes it for what it is. It's a food center. I mean, you can't like patent the idea of a market, and so it's like the whole picture of Jesus back then, being in the sitting in the marketplace. So.
Well, it's just really tough when. Okay, so we're caught.
Like, would you tackle us if we kept going to the van?
I don't think it would be worth it to tackle you. No,
Physically
I can prove one way or the other.
You wouldn't have physically seized us, but you could have.
Could
If
have.
you want.
yeah.
Okay.
I would have given you a verbal, like just a verbal trespass. And then if I saw you guys again, then.
So you'd just be yelling at us verbal trespass.
And then if I
Take
saw you
our
guys
license
again
plate.
the next day, then I would end up actually, charging you with trespass. Or in the future, if I saw you guys back and you ignore the warning.
But
Yes, it's semantics. I mean, I don't know.
well, I just have private
Tainted
property
food.
indicating that trespassing. Okay, so is it was it trespassing or was it theft or like what's the? I guess it's kind of hard to articulate what reasonable suspicion is without something articulative, because it doesn't have to specifically identify a crime. It could just be suspicious circumstances, but the circumstances, they have to be fit and is, I guess, by like a reasonable person, an objectively reasonable person. And so, like for instance, a good example is the screen. Well, it's not illegal to have a screen. It's not illegal to buy one, and the courts are going to probably be really lenient with someone walking out of a library at night with a monitor.
It's not, and the reason why I stopped you, again, it's not an everyday occurrence, but I see that happening. So again, that's a reasonable suspicion.
Okay, so
You
frequent.
possibly-
I guess there's-
Hold on,
See,
I'm
sorry.
still talking. I
Yeah.
let you guys talk.
Exactly, this is
okay?
a
So it's just
two
a
issue.
courtesy to let me continue
Apologize,
talking,
yeah.
okay? So again, that's why I ended up asking you guys to stop. And then once you guys decided not to stop, then that just confirmed my suspicion, the fact that you were doing something you weren't supposed to be doing, possibly. Because what we've encountered generally, when someone has nothing to hide, they stop what they're doing and they answer the questions appropriately. And it's pretty simple, guys. If you have, usually in my line of work, if people are doing something wrong, they're usually not cooperative at all. And you guys were potentially uncooperative all the whole time until we got to this point here. And then you guys finally started to cooperate, show me ID, and then we went from there. So
So it sounds like the reason it was suspicious is because we disobeyed the order to stop.
and because I wanted to ask you guys questions if you guys had any business belonging here, first and foremost.
Disobeying orders and stop is a natural indication of crime versus actually.
You said it was.
Specifically.
You said it was disobeying a lawful order, right?
No. I said I asked you guys to stop and you guys continued going, which confirmed my reasonable suspicion that you guys might have been in the process of stealing something that you guys had in these totes.
Okay, so
I guess what we're getting at now is just generally walking out of doors and disobeying commands are now indicative of theft. I guess what we're trying to layer is
I'm not saying you guys
that you should have
specifically
actually
stole
seen
it.
us
I'm not
actually
specifically
in the
saying you
act
guys
of actual
stole
theft,
something.
and then us walking
But
out
you guys,
disobeying
there was
would. But if
suspicion
we're
that you
just walking
possibly could
out-
have. But you guys continued walking out.
Well,
If there was prior evidence of theft, that's all I'm saying.
There's no way for me to confirm that if you guys don't stop and answer my questions. So I could gather that information.
True, there could be scenarios where you just didn't have to be observing. Like, do you patrol the whole area, walk around many
We do.
times? Okay. Did you see us in the room up there?
I didn't. I just came in the front door, and then as soon as I guys came in,
Okay.
you guys were on the way out. The girls at the front desk were kind of giving you a little strange of a look, and then I looked over at you guys. I said, "Guys, can you stop?" And then you guys continued moving on, and you guys chose not to obey that command. When I said, "Can you guys stop?" you guys chose not to say anything, and you guys continued on your way, which just confirms my suspicion that you guys might be doing something that you're not supposed to be doing.
okay,
That's
so
why you were stopped.
okay, so we have two levels of suspicion: that we're not answering questions, and that we're also possibly stealing. Now, when you seize us and you're trying to dispel those suspicions,
Right.
from there, to dispel that we stopped for no reason unsuspiciously, I guess, has been dispelled because we're obviously talking, I guess. But then this suspicion of theft, how exactly was that dispelled? I mean, you were pretty adamant about looking
Technically,
into
you haven't even gone through our
items
steps.
yet.
Not yet, but actually, Gerard here, Officer Gerard, ended up confirming that you guys have been seen before in here, and that the ladies ended up have seen you before. They originally, did they call out previously on that?
Yeah, last time they were here, they were a little bit suspicious. We came out, me and Harris actually, they had the same setup that they came in with, and they confirmed that they came in with it tonight.
And that's why I didn't. That's why I didn't ask you guys to be searched, because
Big question.
they just confirmed that they've seen you before with the same equipment.
Seen you before with the same equipment, right?
What kind
When
of
was the
equipment?
last time we were here?
I don't recall.
Because
Do you know what kind of equipment?
5 days ago, a week ago, like
Yeah,
for
you
all
see
intents and
command.
purposes, we could be
I think
praying
it was
for someone else.
a couple
while we're
months
out here.
ago.
Okay.
Because to be honest, we haven't been here
Thank you.
in like 4 months.
So that might
So
be.
when,
Yeah, it was a couple months ago. I mean, I don't know
Okay.
exactly, but
okay,
it's
that's
been
the
a
time
while.
for a couple months ago.
No, yeah. So,
Officer.
Denver Police is on their way. They're gonna
Okay.
come out, we're gonna talk. Okay.
So you said he was an officer. You guys are officers?
We call ourselves officers
Okay.
When you're on the
Yeah.
college
on
campus.
campus. Yeah.
Yes,
We're
a security
not
officer.
treated
Okay,
as
gotcha.
officers.
We're trying to speak the same language. Okay, security officers. Okay, so I guess it's always arguing down the right paradigm, and the one that I'm stuck that I can't get past is I always thought that there's only a citizen's arrest that you can be seized over, and that's if they take the gamble if they actually feel like you're shoplifting or something. They go ahead and detain you while a cop gets there to charge you. Without that, it's just kind of a reasonable suspicion thing. I feel as though that's something that was only reserved for police officers to be doing their job with.
As far as reasonable suspicion back
Yeah,
then?
I don't think anybody but officers of the sworn law can have reasonable suspicion.
Because then that's the insurance that protects the police officer other than citizens.
There's
have
no
to have
protection.
probable cause.
Yeah, it's kind of you have to, not just have to have probable cause. You actually have to get a conviction if you citizens arrest somebody, because if you don't, then that'll just be a false imprisonment charge.
Hey, Justin.
Hey, Mel.
So what's going on?
Greetings. I don't know. We were maybe hoping that these guys could explain.
Okay.
Just
Well,
to hear
you
their
wanted
sides.
Denver Police out, so go ahead and explain the situation while you wanted in contact to begin with.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you're right. Yeah, I'm the one who called.
Okay.
Thanks for calling. We're concerned here because when we were leaving the building with some
Okay.
items, we were asked to stop.
Okay.
We kept walking.
Okay.
He followed me out, and this officer, or security officer, I find out, I didn't know that he wasn't a security officer.
Okay.
And the way that he presented himself, it seemed like enough of a show of authority that if I were to not physically concede, if I were walking, maybe he would seize me. So
Okay.
I decided to stop, and I conceded to his authority.
Okay.
And we've been talking about being seized for reasonable suspicion to confirm or dispel possibly theft or trespassing or
Okay.
suspicion, whatever.
All right.
And so we're just at the point where we had our names ran. We had to give that right up there.
Okay.
Where we aren't being detained anymore. We asked if we were free to go now. But
If we were being detained, we said yes.
yeah, and so we're in a position where we're confused if people that are not officers of the law can have reasonable suspicion, because we're under the understanding that only someone under the guise of a citizen's arrest can go ahead and seize somebody, but it's only going to be for probable cause, and it's not necessarily probable cause because they pretty much have to get a conviction in court, otherwise they're subject to a false
Okay.
imprisonment.
Do you two
So-
realize that you are on private property at this time?
Yes. So
Okay. So, with
that-
that being said,
that
on
was the
private property,
conversation.
okay, with that being said, on private property, the owners of that property have the right to hire or to employ their own security. That security or safety will patrol the buildings and the premise of that private property. They have the right to stop and question anybody on that private property if they are employed by the person who owns that property. Does that make sense so far? Does that make sense?
Actually, no.
Okay.
That's our contention.
Okay.
So
So I can't explain it any better than that. You guys are on
That's-
private property. These officers who patrol this private property at this late hour are going to stop and question people whether you're a student or not a student. They're going to clear you to see if you are a student, to find out if you have any other reason to be in one of their buildings late at night. Okay? You're not a student, is that my understanding?
that's information we don't necessarily have to give
Okay,
up.
so-
But I guess I have a lot to say.
Okay,
Okay, because we're getting ahead of ourselves.
okay,
I think.
go ahead.
So our contention is we already had a very similar conversation over the concept of private property
Okay.
versus it's called private public property.
Okay.
It's private property that's open to the public. A good example would be King Soopers.
And this
So-
library, yes.
Yes. So usually these places require some sort of formal warning in order to be banned from it for doing anything that they don't personally want, or if it's illegal, whatever. It doesn't matter. You could be
Okay.
wearing a red shirt. You could be
All right.
skateboarding.
All right.
Banned for skateboarding.
Okay,
Now, it being open to the public, a business owner, a Walmart employee, for instance, checking receipts, we've been told that they don't have the right to actually detain somebody that doesn't answer the question to show a receipt.
okay,
And that the only time they can ever seize somebody is with what is almost looking like probable cause, but basically it's a citizen's arrest
okay,
to go ahead and detain them.
All
So
right.
we've been instructed that you're actually supposed to not ever detain them with reasonable suspicion to confirm or dispel.
okay. So,
That's where we're at, is if there was reasonable suspicion of probable cause
And-
for a crime.
if I was an officer that worked on this private campus, I would have stopped you both as well. And my reasoning behind that, okay, is there's two gentlemen walking out of the building with boxes. It's late at night, okay? They don't know if you're students or not. They don't know what you're carrying. They don't know if you're stealing something from the building. They're gonna stop. They're going to find out what you're doing. They're going to investigate what they suspect as possibly a theft in progress, okay? They're gonna ask you to stop. They're gonna ask you your names, okay? Then they're going to investigate what's going on. If there is no theft in progress, if there's no crime being committed, they're gonna thank you for your time and your cooperation, and you're gonna be free to go, okay? They have reasonable suspicion to stop you. They are employed by this campus. They patrol all of these buildings 24/7. If they see something that they think does not look right, they will stop you, period.
Okay, so
Okay.
when somebody is seized, that's not by a police. Okay, if somebody that's not a
We're
police
different
officer
saying
seizes
stop and
somebody.
actually tackling us and detaining us.
Okay.
Okay, let's. We're getting ahead of ourselves again. We had another conversation already about this.
All right?
Now, what we're trying to figure out is, under our understanding, is that there are 3 levels of encounters, and it's always been on police that we know of.
Okay.
And so the first level is consensual. You can walk up to anybody, ask them any information you want. They
Yep.
keep walking and ignore you. You can't touch them.
Okay.
Second level is reasonable suspicion. It's got to be articulate. You have to detain them, if not physically, if they concede. If you do detain them, they don't have to answer any questions except for, I believe, show an ID.
Okay, I have to have a reasonable suspicion that you are committing or have committed a crime.
Or about to.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so,
So that's the level 2 encounter.
Okay.
So level 3 being something like probable cause for an arrest that is a custodial arrest that if we qualify and sign a ticket, show an ID, maybe we might get a ticket, a non-custodial arrest.
Okay.
But those 3 levels there are something that we've understood only police officers have, because a citizen's arrest is, let's just say just a citizen's arrest is
Private
just probable cause.
institutions also have the right to do so if they employ a private security company or employees to do that job. They are allowed
Okay.
to do that.
So
on
here's a,
private property.
Is there a difference between a private property security officer and a private property business owner in terms of who can seize somebody on private property, on their own private property?
Well, the private property business owner employs the private property security officers.
But can they themselves seize me?
The private property business owner? The business owner can stop and ask you, what are you doing on my
they
property
can't
at any
seize.
That's
time?
the difference. Stop
Okay?
and ask.
They
is
can
different.
stop and ask.
But
If you
can they
want to
seize
tell them
me?
to go pound sand,
Seizing,
then
though.
they can call police, and guess what? We can come and stop you guys on behalf of that business owner, okay?
But can the business owner seize us?
Stop and ask.
What do
is
you mean by
okay.
seize?
Stop and ask is getting in front of our.
Let's say
face
stop and
law.
ask is the level 1.
Yes,
Level 2 being reasonable suspicion. Level 3 being probable cause.
but what do
Would
you
a
mean by
s-
seize? You're not explaining to me what you mean by
If
seize.
a person
Fine,
doesn't,
detain.
okay, if a person,
You need to explain to me what you mean by seize. Do you mean I'm going to come up and grab you and put you in an arm hold? Or do you mean, hello, sir, what is your name and why are you on my property?
as far as I understand,
Mm-hmm.
it goes different ways based upon case law. Some courts have already
Okay,
found
I
out.
need you to dumb it down
Okay,
here and
super
ask me
easy.
what you're trying to ask
Okay.
me, okay?
So a seizure is a physical show, or it's a show of authority. That if they don't concede to the authority, you have to do a physical seizure. Right. If you say stop, our example here, we already had this conversation. So our
Okay.
example is some guys, and this is the case law. So it's simplified. Guys walking down the street.
I want
Cop
to. I
says-
want to find out first why you guys are trying to get case law on something as simple as these officers stopping you and asking you what you're doing.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So jump straight to the point. We need to
Yes.
file police reports for false imprisonment because we don't believe security guards have reasonable suspicion
Okay,
to
it's
seize
not
people.
false imprisonment because they said you're free to go.
But we were seized in the first
They
place without
stopped
lawful
you and asked
justification.
you.
Indicate
They
that we
stopped you and
received.
asked you for identification. Is my understanding. That's all that happened here. They asked you to stop. You refused. They had to continue to ask you to stop. So finally, you complied. They asked you for your name and or your identification. They're trying to investigate what they may have perceived as a crime in progress. Once they realized that there's no crime happening, you guys are regular attendees of the library personnel knows who you are, they then said that you are free to go. There is no unlawful imprisonment there whatsoever. Okay?
Okay, so we
You
would
didn't
like.
consent to it.
Yeah, we asked if we were
Kept
being detained,
walking.
and he said yes, and I never. Okay, so I let's put it this way. I kept walking, and when I stopped, if you call that a consent to authority, sure. If you call that just a consent to a level 1 encounter, that I'm willing to just talk with the security guard, that's one thing. When I was told to provide an ID, I was told that I would be arrested if I don't.
Okay?
That would be obstructing a police officer,
Okay.
right? How would I get an obstruction charge by obstructing
Okay.
this
I wasn't
police
here, so
officer?
I don't know what terminology they use.
Well, he required my ID, and
Okay,
he
you're on
told
private
me,
property, so they can ask you for your ID, just as
Ask.
like on city property, I can
But-
ask you to identify yourself. If you're on
Level
city
1 or 2?
property and you refuse to identify yourself, then I can detain you until I can figure out who you are. On private property, they can also do the same thing because they've been given the authority by the owner of that private property to carry out those duties. Does that make sense?
but
Okay,
they
did you have handcuffs put on you?
We were.
Were you handcuffed, yes or no? It's a simple question.
It doesn't require physical detaining.
They were not handcuffed.
Okay, so, thank you. You were
Okay.
not handcuffed, okay?
No, but
Okay.
does somebody require? Does somebody need to be handcuffed in order to be seized?
Yes. Okay.
I thought, okay, so if you tell someone to stop, and you never touch them, and you just hand them a ticket after writing
Mm-hmm. I'm
them a ticket,
detaining you.
when you detain them, you never once detain them with physical detaining. Though.
If I ask you to stop and identify yourself, I'm detaining you for a few minutes. It's called a stone stop.
Okay, so
Okay.
when does the seizure happen?
the seizure happens is your level 2 that you keep talking to, where I place you in handcuffs, because now I have a reasonable suspicion that something's going on. I'm going to put you in custody at that time with handcuffs.
Okay, so detaining is different than custody.
Yes. And all they did was detain the two of you until they could determine if something was going on here.
Custody would have to be an arrest with probable cause.
Custody does not have to be an arrest.
Well, the definition of a custody is...
In custody does not have to
Okay,
be an
so-
arrest, because my handcuffs come off as easily as they go on.
So back to
okay?
reasonable suspicion zone. Okay. Okay, so he told me, okay,
He basically told us that we were going to be trespassed if we
Didn't comply.
didn't comply.
and that
to
is true.
Giving up the first stopping and then giving up the ID.
That is true.
And
It
so I
is
guess-
private property, and they have the right to carry out a trespass, okay, for whatever rules and regulations that the university has empowered with them for their duties that they carry out. They have the ability to trespass anybody on their property that they deem has no right to be on their property. They're up to no good on their property, okay? They commit a crime on their property.
but it's like a
We
formal
we
warning.
definitely understand that.
It's a formal warning,
Yeah.
yes. But that ticket can also be issued by us to make it even more of a formal warning. They can trespass you and have it put out to the rest of their officers and staff members that the two of you are no longer allowed on premises and not get us involved. If they want to get us involved and ask for a formal trespass, I will then get your information. I will cut you a city ticket, and then you will have to go to court on that trespass. Does that make sense?
Yes, we know how that works.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
so if he gives a formal warning for trespassing,
Mhm.
you just said that you could,
They can do it.
and then you could
And
give us
it
a
would
formal
be-
warning too.
They can do their trespass, and it will be university has warned you guys that they don't want you back
Warrant,
on.
but we wouldn't have a trespass charge.
Not through the city.
Okay,
no.
so how would you, I guess I heard you just say that you would warn us
If
yourself.
they requested us to cite you with trespass because either you guys are being uncooperative,
Feedback.
Now,
or
just-
you have returned after being
Return.
warned
Okay, so it's
that
only
you are no
after.
longer allowed to use this facility, then they can ask us to return and cite you formally with a city and county ticket for trespass.
Because you're not
And then
without
that will go on
permission.
your record.
Exactly.
Their warning doesn't go on any kind of criminal record that you have.
Yeah.
Ours will.
Yeah. You can be
Okay.
trespassed for skateboarding. It
You
doesn't
got
have to be
it.
illegal.
You got it. You can be
Wall.
trespassed from RTD properties because either you're not paying your fines getting on and off the train,
Yeah.
or you have, littered all over their property and they just don't want you back. There's all a number of reasons why. So it's another, RTD is also a private property type institution, but it's also a public institution because it's public utilities, okay?
So we come back and we get arrested on trespassing.
Have they trespassed you from this facility? Because I wasn't here for that part.
Not yet.
Okay.
No.
So, Corporal, are you going to trespass these two gentlemen, or are they still free to go?
They already released us technically.
Okay.
This
Then if
is
you guys
more
want to
to
gather your belongings and go
discuss
ahead about your
the
evening.
false imprisonment, because what we're saying is tainted fruit. If you were to arrest us on trespassing, it's on disobeying an order versus actually breaking an actual statute that can be brought into court. And I guess the contention here is I don't feel like these security officers had enough to even stop us. And
Okay,
let
again, it's
alone
private
put
property, so
The-
they have
Well,
the right
the
to stop
stopping-
anybody. They have the right to stop anybody on their property,
I mean, I
period.
keep
Okay.
walking,
Stop
they-
being a level 1 or level 2 encounter.
Because the stop is I keep walking, he get in my face. That's not actually officially stopping. I consider stopping to confining me in the corner, detaining me, physical detaining.
Is there a reason why you guys did not want to cooperate with these officers on private property? Can you explain that to me? Why did you not want to stop and chat with them?
We didn't feel as though there was enough evidence to.
But beyond that, as a human being, that, hey man, how are you? Why would you not want to just stop and have a conversation with these officers? They don't carry guns. They're not intimidating, okay? They just wanted to find out why you guys are out at, what time is it, 2 o'clock in the morning?
I mean, it just
2
got
o'clock in the
closed,
morning,
so we
okay,
just-
on one of their properties on a Monday night. They have to secure their buildings. They have to make sure that no vandalism is taking part. We have transients that go into their buildings all the time and sleep overnight. They have to patrol these buildings at night to keep it safe for the students and for the public that uses it. They're going to stop anybody and everybody they see on their property, plain and simple. So my question to you is, why wouldn't you want to stop and chat with these guys? If you constantly use this facility, get to know the officers that work 24/7 on this property. They can get to know you. If they see you tomorrow night or the next night or next week, hey Mike, how's it going? Hey Dave, how's it going? And keep on walking. Why would you not want to have that kind of communication with officers who have to patrol this property 24/7?
Maybe
You want a good answer?
I would love an answer.
Okay. So
Are you, I mean, is it that
We're-
intimidating to say hi?
we're in a position
Uh-huh.
where we don't have much time in our life,
Okay.
and we don't like things that waste our time.
Okay.
Especially being unlawfully seized, potentially.
Okay, let's get beyond that right now.
We
I
were,
just want a
I
simple
feel as
answer
though we
on
were
human nature.
profiled, and I feel
Okay.
as though our rights were violated,
Okay.
and we were unlawfully seized, and we just want to file a police report so that
Okay.
we can file
I
this up
have
the chain.
nothing criminal here to file a report on.
Can we file witness statements then
For what?
for what we believe is false imprisonment?
Okay.
No, we're just gonna go ahead and trespass them.
Okay. All right. So formally for the,
Yeah, we're gonna trespass them for the uncooperation at this point, trying to just, again, baseless accusations.
Okay.
I don't think it's a good idea for them to come back if they're gonna cause us much of a problem.
Here's the number one thing. I felt like I was not free to go to my van.
okay.
I
After
feel
they
like
said you were
these
free to
people-
go and you guys said
That
you.
was after they had already gotten our ID, after they accused us that
I
we were
understand
going
that,
to
but when they said
trespass,
you
they
guys
were
are free
trying
to go,
get
why
a-
didn't you just go over to the District 3 station and talk to
That
us
was
over
all,
there?
that was completely after all.
Okay.
Yeah.
We actually felt as though this still needs to be something that we have them here so that we
Okay.
can have a conversation about. We
Okay.
figured since you
And
guys
that's all
called
I'm
it in.
asking you for.
So-
You guys are trying to make this harder than it really is. They were stopping you to try and have a conversation, figure out why you're here after hours, and now we're being called in on something that I actually see as unreasonable, personally.
Okay.
There's nothing criminal here for charges. Am I missing something? Okay.
Okay, so if there's nothing here for criminal charges, what is the reason why we would be denied a witness statement?
I have nothing to attach that witness statement to.
It would
I have
be
no report.
suspicion of
I have
false
no
imprisonment
report.
that you could open because someone called, like a call, I called,
I'm
and
sorry,
I'm
sir, what's
getting
your last name?
Montgomery.
Montgomery. Mr. Montgomery, I have nothing here for reports. I have nothing to attach that witness statement to. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't have a report to file to attach your witness statement to. I've got nothing. I don't have any criminal charges here that you deem that are necessary. The only charges I have right now is the security officers now want to trespass the two of you from this private property, which means you will lose your privileges at this library. If you rely on this library, you will lose your privileges here. Plain and simple. I can't make it any more black and white than that.
And we're actually trying to figure out why at this point. We're still
Yeah,
trying to
why
figure
would
out
we
why.
lose
Because you have not been
privileges here.
cooperating with the employees of this private institution.
Okay, so I stopped when he asked me to, and I gave my ID
You
when he asked me
stopped
to.
the second time after he asked you. My understanding, they asked you the first time and you refused to stop. They asked you again, then you finally stopped.
Okay,
So where was the cooperation in the very beginning? Did they scream at you? Did they shout at you? Did they call you a derogatory name when they asked you to stop the first time? Or did they say, sir, can you please stop? I'd like to talk to you.
Well, them not being, let's put it this way. I thought they were cops, so I thought if I need to be seized, it's got to be physically. So I felt as though I need to keep walking
So
to exercise my rights
if you
to
were
not be
walking down the
seized.
street and I asked you to stop, you would have refused to stop for me too?
I
Is
would
that the
keep-
type of person you are?
I would keep walking
Okay.
because
you don't recognize any kind of authority. Is that where we're at right now?
No, I would.
That's what I'm hearing
We're
from
trying to
you.
avoid a Terry stop is what it.
An
Okay.
unlawful
Explain.
terror stop.
Okay.
Okay, so the whole point being is, if somebody keeps walking and you say stop, you're under arrest,
Mm-hmm.
and say they throw something like a rock, that's not, they're not seized yet according to the law because that rock is actually admissible into evidence. So when somebody, okay, I guess I've actually been wondering this for a very long time. If somebody doesn't stop when you say stop as they're walking down the street, what would that charge be?
Okay. if I don't have any kind of suspicion that they're up to no good, and I'm just trying to stop them to have a conversation, and they don't want to stop, I'll be like, okay, great, have a good day.
Level 1.
Okay? I don't have a reason to stop them. They weren't coming out of building late at night, they weren't carrying suspicious packages late at night, and they weren't on private property late at night. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Well,
Okay.
you're an officer of the law, though.
I am,
And
but I
so-
don't work for this institution. These officers work for this institution.
But there's no police authority these people have to
There,
seize people.
there is authority for these people to have. They are employed by this institution to do this very job, to stop people who they find may be up to no good, who look suspicious. They need to investigate, is there any property damage done? Is there any theft occurring? Is there something going on that
Sounds
should,
like we're being detained in the middle of the investigation.
should not be
That's
going
the
on.
problem right
Okay, I
there.
have 2 questions I think we can leave on.
'Kay.
Do security officers possess the ability to seize somebody with reasonable suspicion?
yes,
Okay. Only other question is, I have to get this back in. Hold on a second. Does a shopkeep owner have the ability to seize somebody in order to obtain identification and a picture in order to ban them? Say they catch them for skateboarding. I don't want you here anymore. Can they take that person into their office to get the information to
Take a
write a
picture of them.
trespassing
if
order?
that
ID.
skateboarder cooperates with that shopkeep owner, absolutely.
That's
But if they don't, what is that? Like, the shopkeeper seize them and physically take them to get their picture and get their information.
It's not unheard of for us to hear managers, store clerks, and everybody else chasing after shoplifters down the street and around the corner just to catch them. That's about the same thing you're talking about right there.
Well, that would be.
Okay?
That would.
So,
well, I mean, that's
they're
that's kind of
shoplifting,
vague. I mean,
the
that would be.
skateboarders
That's a
are
citizen's-
That's a citizen's
trespassing.
arrest.
of
though, so
actually
that's.
catching enough probable cause to
They're
bring you into
chasing
court.
them because they're shoplifting.
Because
The
they-
shopkeeper
They have the
who's got
evidence of
somebody who's
shoplifting.
trespassing on their private property with a skateboard when the sign says no
Okay, so
trespassing,
skateboarding, okay.
no skateboarding or
Okay,
whatever.
Trespassing. And they can physically seize that person.
They can
a
stop
skateboarder.
that person, yes.
Okay, by stop you mean physically seize. Well, can I say physically? Because if they don't want to
If they go
keep
up and
going.
grab them, there might be a problem. But they can get in their face and say, hey man, I don't want you skateboarding on my property anymore. What's your name? Sure they can. It's their
Okay.
private property. It's like your house.
Okay, and then if they keep
Get off
walking,
my lawn.
and if they keep walking,
Okay?
no one can stop them. The skateboarder.
I don't know what that clerk's going to do.
But if they keep walking, does that person still have a
So
right
you're
to
trying
go
to talk
physically
apples
seize
and
them?
oranges. You're trying to talk about security officers who are employed by a private institution, and now you're talking about the private institution doing it.
I guess
Well,
what
it'd be
you're
a
saying
secure-
is
it's
that-
the
If
same as a
president-
security guard.
If the president, or what's he called?
I know what
your
you're trying to
high
say.
guy? Your chancellor. If the chancellor is chasing you guys down to try and stop you and find out what you're doing at 2 o'clock in the morning at the library, he just might do that.
But does he have the right to physically seize us?
If he physically seizes you, I'm not sure why he would do that, because he doesn't know you from Adam and you might be carrying a
Well,
knife or a
stop.
gun.
But does he have the right to?
Yes, sir.
What he's trying to say is there's a difference between reasonable suspicion and probable cause for things that fit municipal, state, and federal codes that
Sure.
anyone then obviously has the probable cause. We're talking about being stopped for policies and personal preferences such as skateboarding is a good example. It's not inherently illegal. And so therefore, if it's an assault on the mall property, yeah, they can detain him. They obviously would just take a picture, but even when
That
an
makes
assault,
sense.
you can't take someone to the office because of that point. Cops would just take them. So when it comes to
Unless they agree to it.
that's the degree. That's
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
billion-dollar statement. That's
Mhm.
the degree. And so what we're getting at here is basically, if we are trespass is a real charge, and the real charge would be based off of a policy violation instead of an actual statutable offense.
So, again,
And the policy is only based off of another statutable offense, and that would be theft, shoplifting.
okay.
And so
So,
if the theft and shoplifting doesn't show up and we're trespassed, what we're saying is if we were arrested, if we kept going on our way, got in our van, ignored him, trespassing charge would have showed up. We may have come back here another day after this, and what we're saying is we would be pursuing no probable cause, false imprisonment, second-degree kidnapping charges against a police officer who would try to get us on trespassing off of a falsified tainted fruit piece of documentation of an accusation that has no evidence. And not stopping is not an indication of a crime. It's an indication of a policy violation.
Okay, not stopping is not the indication of a crime, that's true. However, my question to you is, why wouldn't you want to stop?
To
It's-
ensure
Your
my rights.
excuse for not having enough time is not good.
I never actually finished that answer. That's to me not even a relevant question because I know my rights to basically do whatever I need to get my life done, and there's a lot to do with profiling, and basically we've been profiled in the past and we've been unlawfully seized,
Okay.
and it's become a habit. And so that's
let
why
me
we
ask you
felt
this,
as though we needed to
because
write
you've
this
been
down.
stopped and profiled in the past, you felt that they were doing the same thing without any real evidence on your part.
Actually, we're pro se attorneys that have been studying law for a very long time now,
Okay.
and they fit the statutes of false imprisonment to a T because we feel as though reasonable suspicion, non-officers of the law do not have the right to seize people with reasonable suspicion.
Okay,
That's why we
Or
wanted to
probable
file,
cause.
okay.
and not even probable cause. A citizen's arrest doesn't even enjoy the rights of probable cause if the person loses in court. So technically,
Citizen's
someone
arrest
doesn't.
has enough probable cause enough that it's always protected.
Okay, you're on private property. They have the right to stop you, plain and simple.
Okay, so back to the shopkeeper.
Okay, I'm not
does
gonna
the
talk
per-
about shopkeepers.
Does
I'm
the
gonna-
skateboarder
okay,
have the right to be stopped?
I'm gonna finish this conversation
You
right
just
now,
told
okay?
me that
Because
the
we're going in
skateboarder didn't have a
circles here.
right to be stopped.
We're going in circles here, sir, all right?
Because it's false
You're on
imprisonment.
private property, they had the right to stop you because they believed that something wasn't right. Okay?
Okay.
That's the simple solution right now. They now want to trespass the two of you from this property, okay? To where you no longer have the right to come back and use this facility, all right? You guys being attorneys, you want to fight that with the university, be my guest, okay? But they now have brought us in. You want to file city charges of trespass, is that what you're telling me, Corporal? Or you just
We
want to
were
file
never
the
given the
university
Let's just
trespass?
do the university.
The university trespass.
Yeah, we were not given the opportunity.
Okay,
that we-
so
Yeah,
If
could
these
he,
officers
could he
are,
get a,
these officers are gonna go over what their trespass is, okay? They don't wanna sign a city ticket, so they're gonna
Well,
go
when they-
over,
when you
let
say
me
they don't
finish.
wanna
Nope,
sign
we're
a
gonna be
ticket.
done with this right now, sir,
Okay.
okay? And we're going in circles, I'm done. They're gonna go over their trespass, which means you're no longer allowed on their property, okay? You'll have to find a different library to use, I apologize, but because of whatever happened here before we got here, this is where we're at, okay?
okay, so we don't deserve a city trespassing.
They're
order.
not going to sign a city trespass ticket from what the corporal just told me. No.
Do they have the capacity to? Can they?
Yes, they can sign a city trespass ticket against you, and I can go and print it out of my car, and I can serve you both the trespass tickets tonight if you
And
like.
that's a trespassing charge for trespassing.
That's a trespass ticket for the city.
And it's a charge under municipal or
It's
state,
a-
whatever.
Yep, it's a municipal code
Okay,
ordinance.
and that requires a formal warning, right?
Not always, no.
In this case, it would.
Okay, he's about to give you your warning. He
But
didn't
you
want to
just
sign a city ticket.
Well, that's the thing.
If we have a trespass, what's it called, on file with the city?
Straight to arresting a skateboarder for trespassing.
Can we get both?
Businesses can set up a trespass. I can't think of the terminology. They can through the city. They can set up a trespass for their business if they want somebody
Oh, I
signed
see.
because the owner is not on scene. After hours, at night, they have transients on their property and they want that transient cited for trespass. Because they have it on file through the city, we can automatically issue a trespass ticket to that party with no warning because they've got it on file with the city. Okay?
The transient was actually trespassing though, and actually committing an offense.
Yeah, he was
Didn't
prior
even
warned.
Need a warning though.
Okay.
So here, I just want to see if
That's
we can
why
get
they're
both
giving
this
you the warning.
Yeah, we're
and
gonna do a warning.
can we get a public trespassing warning too?
That's what I'm about to do.
That's what he's doing. He's giving you guys a warning.
Okay, and so that gets into their system now.
No, that gets into ours. So if we see you again here, we're
Okay.
gonna call out them, and they're gonna end up giving you a citation.
Okay, so I
This is the
can't get a
normal
I can't get a
formal warning,
trespassing
This is a
charge
formal
tonight.
warning right now that
Not
you
from
can't.
us,
So
no,
that means
because
you can't
Okay.
come
he's
back.
giving you a warning.
Okay.
that you're asking for.
Because
You're asking
a
for the
second
warning.
ago, you just said that we could get a
If
charge.
they have it on file with the city, then yes, you can get a charge.
Oh, if we were already
Yep.
prior.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
yeah, we're never in disagreement with that.
Yeah,
Of
yeah,
course,
exactly.
if there's another prior of that, it would obviously
Okay, so if
be-
you guys want to pay attention what the corporal's getting ready to tell you.
Can I just say something? Do you guys like using this library? Yes or no? Do you like coming here and using our facilities?
We don't have very many opportunities, and this is the only one. We actually came from Fort Collins
So you do like it.
to work here late at night because it's the only place I'll go to.
So that's yes.
Yes.
I mean, he's the boss. He says what goes. Personally, I've seen you guys before. I don't want to trespass you. This whole thing has gone out of hand. I mean, I feel like if we can all agree that this has just gone too far, if you guys can walk away and be cool and come back and be cool, I don't see a necessary reason to trespass you. Okay? I understand you guys like it here, and I don't want to kick you out. If you can just play it cool, I don't see why we'd have a problem. Can we agree on that?
At this point, I see there being a potential problem with them coming back, so I'm acting in good faith
can't
with the
say what you're gonna
university.
do, I just
So
wanna-
we're gonna go ahead and give them general municipal warning, which will be unlawful for any person to loiter, idle, wander, stroll, or plan about, or any school, college, or university grounds or buildings, either on foot or on any vehicle, without having some lawful business therein or thereabout, or in connection with such school, college, or university, or the employees thereof. I hereby acknowledge that I have been advised of the aforementioned Denver Municipal Code dealing with loitering or trespassing on university grounds, and have been advised that I am not allowed to on university Denver property. I also acknowledge that if I return to the university without authorization, I am subject to arrest or violation of the aforementioned ordinance and any other city code or state law applicable. You understand, gentlemen?
Yes. We have one last question. I
Okay.
think.
Now, you can,
That's okay.
do you want to sign or do you want to not sign and just be verbally acknowledged?
We definitely don't have to sign, right?
Yes,
I know you don't have to sign.
No,
Okay.
be verbally warned.
Okay.
And then,
So, okay, so
we'd like that
Quick
as a
question I
version.
yep,
hope. Okay.
it's the contention we're going to have to pick up later because this is where we left off. Do private party security officers have the right to seize people with reasonable suspicion? If you guys can just give us a whatever you think one at a time.
I want you to define seize for me because I've explained to you what detain and in custody means. Okay? Giving
It'd be
you two different
detained.
examples.
Detained.
Detain, so not seize per se, but
Level
detained.
2 encounter.
That's in custody. That's with handcuffs on.
We'll just say.
So tonight you were detained. You were not seized. You were detained by these officers so
Okay,
they
not
could
seized.
investigate what was going on their property that they work on.
Okay, so they didn't have reasonable suspicion.
They
Well,
did.
they did.
Okay, they did. Okay, so that's all I wanted to ask was,
Okay.
It's 2 o'clock
they
in the
have a
morning,
right
you're
to
carrying out
so
boxes
they
out of the library.
yeah, so they have a right to seize people or whatever we want to call
Detain.
detain people with reasonable suspicion. You say yes?
Absolutely. You're
Okay, you
carrying
say
boxes
yes.
out of the
You're on private
library.
Okay,
property.
2 o'clock in the
I just
morning.
want for
We
record
just wanted
purposes.
for
Yeah, you
confirmation.
say yes.
If there's a crime committed, an actual crime committed, we will handcuff you. But for purpose of our rules, our private property, if we see something suspicious, we can absolutely stop you and just ask questions.
Okay,
But
detain.
unless we
Okay.
know you actually committed a crime, we cannot handcuff you.
So do you guys have handcuffs real quick?
We do.
Okay, cool. Moving on. Just to get back. Seized or detained with reasonable suspicion. Security guards have the right to. If you're willing to answer. I just want to get it out of everyone so I can move on with my life. Not move on, but it's evidence of
Let's go
purposes.
ahead and gather our stuff. And where's
Okay.
your van?
Do you
Sir?
have the right to seize people with reasonable suspicion?
I don't
Detain.
think they're going to answer any more of your questions. Yeah.
Well, we got our answers from you guys. That's why we called.
Not from
We'll follow up with you guys. Thank you very much. We're really sorry,
There
Patrol.
is
Can we get your
a,
business cards?
quick
Verbally-
process that we can do at the bottom there.
You've been verbally trespassed. You acknowledge that, so that's all that you
I
need.
guess the next step is we'll just get in contact with your dean and,
Okay.
Yeah, and internal affairs. But there is a difference between seized and detained. Okay, we don't even get that from you guys anymore. We were recording this the whole time. If you want to know a really good answer to this question of why we do what we do, we've been unlawfully seized too many times to count. And if you guys wanted to do some really easy education, I've already been able to start bring some of these videos up of my already won files. So if you guys type in the words kidnapped by Fort Collins Police and kidnapped by Westminster Police, you can go look up the videos. They're extremely educational, and I think you guys would be very wise to view them. It's kidnapping because it's false imprisonment with zero lawful justification. We were picked up outside of parks. We were picked up outside of private or public roads, private drives. Officers don't read through statutes, and non-officers think that they're officers of the law. So that's why we called, is because we're really concerned that we think we've been falsely imprisoned tonight, and we're really, really concerned because we reported that to you
It's
guys.
time to go.
So, if you say so, guys. We have computers in here for our evidence because we're putting it together. So,
You really want to know?
your witness tampered us in 42 USC claims.
The
that were
reason why I have a
up to.
monitor is because my laptop screen is broken.
So,
Oh man.
human trafficking, hate crimes, discrimination, profiling, crimes against humanity.
Not necessarily the profile, it's the technicality of how you get picked up wrong.
Yeah.
Good day, sir.
Good day. I apologize. One last thing. Thank you. What was that? Please, actually, I'm not joking. I'm not joking. This could be really good. Thanks, guys. Either we're completely right or we're completely wrong.
Let's do a selfie together. Come on.
I've never done a selfie before, guys. I actually haven't, so.
I don't care.
We're not mean people.
We're you know,
We're OCD.
we're really OCD, that's all. But, I don't know. I'm gonna try it with my finger. I guess I can't, yeah. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. You guys have a good night.